And good Wednesday morning. It is May 28th. It seems like the month is already wrapping up on us, and who knows, summer will be here just before we know it. Time keeps on flying by. You're listening to your hometown radio station. My name is Ryan Hack. You're broadcasting live from the Colton Steakhouse and Grill studio here in the illustrious city of Bardstown. I'm sitting in here at Engineer Control for Jim Brooks here this morning for Bradford Brooks, but Margie is here with us. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
It's good to hear. We've got a few special guests with us as well. Want to get some introductions started here?
Surely. We're privileged to have with us today Nelson County Superintendent Wes Bradley, and he has brought with him two helpers in getting this program started, Chastity Newberry and May Wempsett. And I'm going to let him tell you what they are all about, because this is a very exciting program at Nelson County Schools with a Young Educators program. So, Wes, tell us about how this got started and what your aim and purpose is.
Thank you, Margie. Well, firstly, I can't take credit for any of the work that's going on in these programs. We have some great people across our district that have been a part of that. Also, I think it's important to know that really Miss Newberry and Miss Wempsett are the leaders of the program and are pioneering what is now the first apprentice in the state of Kentucky to graduate. So they know a lot more about the program than I do, but if I was to simplify this down from a larger conversation, May and Chastity both have a shirt on, coincidentally today. It says "The future is local," and in the context of our schools, that means really we have this opportunity to take advantage of our most important natural resource, and that is the people in our community and in our schools, to build the future for our schools and our community. And really, that's a big part of what this program is about, is uniting emerging leaders in our community and schools with the opportunity to lead in our schools. And May has had that opportunity over the last 2 years as the first adult teacher apprentice in Kentucky, where she did complete her 4-year degree at Western just this past month, and is now prepared to lead more independently in the classroom, even though the last 2 years she's been in the classroom every day, working side by side with master teachers, and I would say, and has had more classroom experience and time than 99% of other teachers in Kentucky before she started. So, but I do want to make it clear, really, Miss Newberry and another teacher at Cox's Creek, Miss Kelsey Taylor, were the primary leaders in supporting May, but really May, she was easy to support because she was so consistent and responsible to get through a program that is very rigorous and takes a significant amount of time. So today is a celebration, but it's also a time to learn more about this journey. So May, I think for you, as you look back, kind of helping us understand what drew you to this conversation 2.5, 3 years ago, and kind of talking through your journey to understand what it even means to be an apprentice.
Yeah, well, I think I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, and one of the best ways to do that, well, one of the only ways to do that was to go off and go to a 4-year college at the time. And I went and did a year at the University of Kentucky, and it was great. And I came home, and one of my high school teachers actually told me about the apprenticeship that there was talk of. And I was always a person who loved Nelson County. I loved the school that I went to, and I knew I wanted to be a teacher, and I didn't know exactly what the apprenticeship was going to hold, but it sounded like a great opportunity, and I jumped in because I wanted to be a teacher, and ultimately I wanted to be a teacher in Nelson County schools, and what better way to do that than to do my coursework here in the schools. So
what's your last 2 years look like?
So for the last 2 years, I've been at Cox's Creek Elementary School. I've been in a 5th grade classroom for the first year, and for this past year, I've been with the 1st grade classroom. And I've been hands-on inside the classroom teaching all day, every day, and at night, I would go home and do my Western Kentucky coursework. So working all the time, but learning so much. Yeah.
So you completed a traditional 4-year degree at Western Kentucky. You had some credits transfer, it sounds like, from UK and maybe some high school credits.
Yes.
Is that right? So you did have some college credits before you left for UK.
Yes.
Transfer as well.
Yes, from Thomas.
So she qualifies as an adult learner, not the student learner.
Yeah. So we have student apprentices that are students that are still in high school that have to get accepted by Western Kentucky into the program, and I believe we have 9 or 10 of those students currently, and then we have adult apprentices who go through a more rigorous interview process and application process, and they would begin teaching in our schools. This year we had 3 adult apprentices, May being one of them. Next year I believe we'll have 7 adult apprentices across the district, working in 3 to 4 different schools. But just helping the audience understand a little bit more. So you taught during the day, you went to classes at night and in the summer, and you ended with a 4-year degree from Western, and you're 21 years old. So you really went to college for 3 years after high school.
Yes.
So can you just talk a little bit about that, the challenges that you faced during that time period? I mean, sounds like you were going about 12 hours a day most days.
Yes.
12 to 14 hours.
Yeah, I think definitely a big challenge was just the time management. Going from college itself is difficult and hard to work through, but being in the classroom brings on a whole new level of challenges, because the apprenticeship, you jump in, you're doing everything that the teacher in that room is doing. So just having those responsibilities on top of your coursework, that was probably the biggest challenge and hurdle for me to learn within the apprenticeship.
So you're learning, you are earning hours, college hours during this process.
Yes.
Was she taking courses at night? I think you're also, so one key difference in the apprenticeship program is as opposed to traditional student teaching, is the apprentices are paid. And it's about a half of the salary of a first-year teacher. So May was compensated, and I think that also helps sustain some of the progress in the.
Well, it certainly would encourage them, in that sounds like a little grueling process there, because you're tackling high school, college, and work at the same time.
Yes. So part of there is a financial benefit. The courses at Western are highly reduced cost, and the district supports with that, as does ultimately some of the federal programming may support with that, not yet, but does allow for someone in May's situation to potentially graduate more debt-free.
Yes, which is definitely a benefit. It has been very nice to come out now, post-grad, and not be staring down all this debt. It's been very nice.
That's great.
But more importantly for us as a district, it allows us to have a person that's invested deeply in our schools that has strong relationships with people. So, May's relationship at Cox's Creek is really important to her thriving and work in life as she transitions this next year. So,
knowing the history of education in Kentucky, this sort of mirrors what happened years and years ago when you had the teachers coming in and teaching, and then you had the older students who were helping the teacher to teach.
We don't know exactly what you're talking about, Margie. Well, when was that?
Oh, I'm talking about the 1- and 2-room schoolhouses. That's going way back there.
Yeah, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, tell us exactly how this works. When a student is entering into high school, how does someone get into that program?
So we have a teaching pathway. It's part of what we call Grow Nelson. You can enter into that program right now as a freshman in high school. So as a freshman in high school, you begin to take some education classes, and over the course of that first 1 or 2 years, if you choose the pathway to go more in depth, you can enroll at Western for some of those college classes. In theory, we have some students achieving this right now. The students are graduating with an associate's degree from Western before they enter into the teaching program as an adult apprentice. So May, while she went to 3 years of college after high school, she also had college credits. We see that more and more being the norm. But right now we also have students working in our schools as juniors and seniors, working alongside teachers to support with that apprenticeship as the student level. So again, it's a part of a larger shift, just like other industries have apprenticeships, federal apprenticeship models. It's a larger shift to use a common sense approach to education and future labor needs, where you're tending to that reality right in your town. If May went to Western Kentucky and she spent her 4 years there, the chances she comes back and contributes to Bardstown decrease. Like the chances she takes a job in Bowling Green increase, right? So there's only 12 counties in Kentucky that have a college of education.
Well, they don't have to sign anything saying that they are going to come back here or anything to that, because I know there are programs like that where you could get a reduced rate of attending college, and then be able to commit and say, I will come back and work here for 2 years or 4 years or whatever.
Well, I'm not aware of you signed anything that would force you to do that, right?
No.
No, I'm talking to May. I mean,
oh, I'm sorry.
There was no agreement in place, is there?
Well, part of my contract is to work for the district, so they just go hand in hand, in my opinion.
Well, if you left, let's say you didn't take a job with the district, are you responsible to any payments or sorts or?
I think if it was before my time of my contract, it would be but it's basically paying your tuition back if you left, I believe.
Got it.
So now, are you fully accredited?
I am.
You
yes.
are, all right. And this took you 3 years after high school?
Yes, 3 years.
To get fully accredited, right. So you're growing your own teachers here. Sounds great.
A key piece in that is Chastity's role. So you can talk a little bit about the role you play and how that came to be.
So I've been a teacher for a little over 10 years, and for me in this situation, I was able to take on being a journeyman to May, and she came into my classroom, and it was really neat because I got to experience and give her like a gradual release in how to become a teacher. So we really started out with the beginning of the year, her observing my classroom management, my organization, my teaching strategies, and then I kind of shifted a little bit to mid-year where we would do it together. She would be up there teaching, and I would, if she had a moment where she wasn't sure about something, we just kind of paused and I talked her through it, and we kind of did it hand in hand to where at the end of the year, I really turned it all over to her. And she kind of took over the classroom, and I became almost like an assistant to her needs by the end of the school year. So being able to watch that gradual release and the growth over that year for her has been such a really neat perspective on my end, and knowing that she's going to have her own classroom next year, and how well equipped she's going to be for that. It was it just feels so good to know that I was a part of that, and hopefully she learned a lot from me, and then she got to do that exact same thing with Miss Taylor the year before in a 5th grade classroom. So I also love how in this program they kind of split their years, where if, say, for an elementary school, they'll spend part of their time in primary and part of their time in intermediate, because I'm just a really big advocate as a teacher that a teacher should teach in multiple grade levels so they can understand like vertical alignment with standards and what the students' needs are. And so for her, getting that experience over just a 2-year time is extremely beneficial.
So now, do you have a classroom by yourself now? Or, so you are.
This fall I will have a classroom.
This coming fall
Yes.
you will be. Okay, great. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Well, tell us how many students get to, or I say, can take advantage of this or have taken advantage of this?
Well, there's no limit in theory. Right now, we are funding this locally through our general fund. We are working with state legislators, because not just we, I think other districts are as well,
Yeah.
to support some funding for these programs. We believe that this is the most common sense approach to the future of schools, and you're getting local people that are invested in those communities. They're much more likely to be engaged and connected, and ultimately a better teacher. And that's the goal. Obviously, to teach in a place and be great, you don't have to be from that place. But it does help to sustain the school community, to work within people that are already closely connected in the community. Much less likely to be transient as a teacher.
Well, I mean, if I understand correctly, there's not a plethora of teachers that you're able to necessarily keep all the time. I mean, that's, if I'm not mistaken, then that an issue that you have to deal with.
I think there's been a teacher shortage, a labor shortage in education for since the one-room schoolhouse.
Right.
If you look back at the times in one-room schoolhouse, they really had to go a long way to find those teachers to come in them. Over time, I think it's kind of ebbed and flowed with the labor market. Obviously, right now there's a shortage of many different fields. But I would say that in terms of education, the reality is certain areas like specialized areas like science and math have always been underrepresented. Elementary school teachers, because of their generalized nature of the certification, there are usually quite a few more applicants for elementary schools than there are for a middle or high school specialty. Because when Miss Newberry and Miss Williamson apply to be a teacher, they can teach almost anything in elementary school, as opposed to just one subject area, which gives them a lot more flexibility. So while I'd say today, if you have a position posted at Cox's Creek School, you probably are going to get 3 to 4 applicants. Some schools, depending on their location, may only get 1, 2 applicants. So I share that just as a reference point. Probably 20 years ago, you would have gotten maybe 10 applicants. So, which is probably similar to the overall labor market in terms of, just differences that have occurred in that time.
So are you the only one who is qualified this year? I mean, I know this is going to be your first year, and this is only the second year of the program?
Second year of adult apprentices, yeah.
Right.
May was the first.
Yes.
Okay.
To my knowledge, I'm the first to go through the program, so.
Yeah, in Kentucky. So she's the first person in Kentucky to go through the program.
Well, that's great.
Yes. I was happy to be a part of it and just get to see. I think that we do everything that we do as educators for the students, and I think that the best way to help the students is to give them highly prepared educators. So I was happy to hop on board and be a part of this.
Well, can you tell us, do you have a favorite anecdote about this process, about in your process of learning as a student teacher, and do you have a favorite story? I mean, something like an aha moment, an aha moment.
Oh goodness. Well, there have been a lot of aha moments. I think that's the beauty of this apprenticeship. I get to this year I got to watch Chastity deal with some extreme behaviors, or some, you can have students come to you who have huge gaps in their knowledge. So just really the whole year there were aha moments where I got to watch her do her thing, and then I got to jump in and try to do it. And then, like she said, towards the end of the year, the roles were kind of reversed. I was the one who was tackling it firsthand, and she was the one that I went to reflect with. Like, how did this go? So
supporting each other.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was a really big part as well that I feel like you don't find in another program. We would have the opportunity to reflect over her strategies and her teaching daily versus meeting with somebody once a week and talking about something that happened a week ago.
Right.
We were able to reflect within moments, hours of something happening, and that's much more beneficial than somebody having to wait and then forget what actually happened or the details of a situation. She was able to navigate and make changes just right in that moment or for the next day. And she's a very reflective person, so it was very amazing to see how we would talk about one thing on Monday, and then Tuesday she was already putting those practices into to make changes. That was probably my biggest takeaway from this program is that you don't have that opportunity in any other program.
Well, do you have any other aha moments as the teacher? I mean, this is a different process for you. You're previously in the classroom by yourself, or perhaps with an aide, but the responsibility is solely on you. Does this give you some feedback?
It does. As far as the things in the teaching profession that can be a little bit scary, parental communication and talking about having hard conversations with families, that is not really taught in a traditional teaching program. It can be talked about as far as like what you might do in this situation, but she was able to be embedded in that firsthand. So if I had conversations with parents, or she had conversations with parents, or we had meetings with families and things like that, she was able to sit in on those and experience the fear that comes with it, because as a teacher, that becomes easier and more natural over time, and it's really only time that can help with that. And she already has that time under her belt going into her first year, which is amazing. Not many people get that, so.
I'll tag in here for a moment. I wanted to ask, May, how long do you think it is that you kind of knew that you wanted to be a teacher?
Oh, well, I definitely have always wanted to be a teacher. You know, that was probably the very first thing when anybody asked me, probably at 7 years old, oh, I want to be a teacher, so. Were
you involved in a teaching pathway in high school?
I actually was not. I took a traditional high school.
Okay, and then you went to college for this, and then when you were back in town, discovered that this opportunity was available to you. How do you think those opportunities, I suppose, for someone who in high school knows they want to go into teaching, how do you think that's like changed, I guess, since you were in high school, or what opportunities now do you see as being available that maybe, like, not to say like that you regret how things have happened, but what would you, I guess, do to have been even more prepared than you already are? Which is, as if you're not already over-prepared. But
well, I would say, just looking at where I'm at as an adult apprentice with 2 years of the apprenticeship under my belt, knowing that there are high school students jumping into parts of this program as freshmen, and then, the more advanced parts of it as juniors, I think if I were to have started this at that time, I can't even imagine the educator that I would be going into this first year as.
One of the big components that we're thinking about is the nature of leadership in teaching. It's so much of teaching is emotional. You can be an expert in math or teaching reading, but do you lead the children in the room and your colleagues in a way that inspires them and motivates them to be a part of something? And so much of that is emotional. We're thinking a lot about that as we develop character and leadership within emerging students. Part of that's you got to live through experiences. It's hard to develop some of those skills without living through some tough experiences. So. But that's something we're thinking a lot about, and I think May's thinking about that. She just kind of alluded to that. Part of it is, building that identity as a leader of other people, something that's important to the future of this program.
One thing that Nelson County is really amazing at is seeing things in people that they maybe did not see in themselves. With me being in Nelson County, I started in the county as being a teacher. Never really saw myself as anything other than a teacher for the rest of my career. I just wanted to be a teacher forever. And Nelson County Public Schools have just done a really good job of having people in my life within the school system that have invested in me and brought out leadership skills in me that made me want to be better, made me want more out of my career. And I feel like I'm seeing that all over our district. We're teaching our students to want more. We're teaching our students to be more independent. We're teaching them to have a drive that you don't often see as often anymore in people. And I've already noticed that in May, and I've expressed to her, like, I think you're going to be an amazing teacher, but if I'm being honest, I see you going further in your career over time. And I think that this program is going to teach students that they can be a teacher in our district, but there's so much more than that. They can keep going and become leaders for our community, for whatever they want. And I just feel like that is straight out of the beliefs and the values within our district.
Would you say that you have any advice for someone who may say 5-6 years ago, you maybe were in similar shoes? There's like a student who wants to get into teaching, but maybe they have doubts. What was a moment where you kind of knew for sure, like, oh yeah, this is like I've been right about this. This is what I want to do. There can be doubts. You can. There's stories all the time of people who say studied for a super long time to be something like a pharmacist, and they're a week into the job and they realize they hate it. So like, what was that moment, I guess, where you really got your hands dirty and realized, like, oh yeah, no, I can do this?
I would say just recently, we ended our school year and we got to give all of our students awards, and really the moment that like solidifies it for me every year is when you get to give a student a growth award, because part of the apprenticeship is you're with them all year long. So I got to see them at the beginning and at the end, and just seeing the growth that they make over the year really makes it worth it to me and shows me that I'm right where I need to be. And also just the Nelson County community, like just the school that you work in and the community that you work with, seeing those people invest in your life and really care about you as an educator and as a human, that told me right there that I was exactly where I needed to be.
So would you say that kind of real experience there would be something kind of integral to, say, if a high school senior wanted to, I mean, it's a big decision if they want to, say, go to college for this. Is that something they should, strive to have that sort of experience to kind of know in their mind whether or not this is right for them?
I would say 100% that they need that experience. Like you just said, some people go 4 years through school and get out to whatever profession they're going into, and they're like, oh my goodness, I don't want to do this. So just having the length of this program and all the experiences that you have, it just puts you on the other side. You're for certain. You know for sure that you're prepared and that's what you want to do.
I didn't know if anyone could necessarily speak to, I suppose, how the schools are providing that sort of real experience, I suppose. There's one thing about a classroom, there's another for, again, the investment, I guess, in that journey of, say, a student if you're an educator, and the experience May was talking about.
I would say treating these students that are coming in, even May, as an adult apprentice, not as an assistant, but as a co-teacher. We taught our students immediately from day one that I was not their teacher, that me and Miss Wimsett was their teacher, so that when they see these apprentice students and adults in the building, they see them equally as a staff member within our building. They have that same respect for them. So I would say just making sure that they're treated as an equal and versus as an assistant to everyone in the building. They're not there to just do the work that you don't have time for. They're not there to make copies. They're not there to do those things. They're there to really invest in the moment.
How many students do you have now presently taking part in this program?
I think we have about 40 education pathway students. But in terms of the apprenticeship, I believe we're closer to 10 to 12 students that qualify. To be accepted into the apprenticeship, you have to demonstrate a number of qualities that are really above and beyond. And then to be accepted into the adult apprenticeship program, even more so. And not everyone's going to make it. And everyone that signs up won't make it through the student apprenticeship process because of the requirements, and not everyone will make it through the adult apprenticeship process because it's very demanding.
Could you clarify real quick for me? I suppose I've missed something here. So there is a difference between what May has done as an adult apprentice to a different apprenticeship available for other teaching pathway students?
Students that are still enrolled in high school would be student apprentices, and they would, let's say, take part of their day to co-teach at Foster Heights or Oak Kentucky Home or Bloomfield.
And they're earning college credits while they're doing
in some
that.
cases, yeah. The students that are student apprentices are enrolled at WKU as well, and they're gaining what could be an associate's degree that leads to potentially becoming an adult apprentice. Not all of them become adult apprentices, but that is a pathway to get there
And the
faster.
key differences in those experiences are being kind of just the time that they're able to invest.
And the adult apprentice gets paid half of, half of a first year teacher salary for those 2 years, and they're teaching all day long. So they're really living more of a traditional teaching experience.
Sure, but even half a day of, experience for, the senior or something like that in high school,
Still quite engaging.
makes a big difference.
Yeah, and the student apprentices, they might come in, halfway through their school day, so straight from a high school over to, say, Cox's Creek, and they might come into the school, and they may not be going into one particular classroom, whereas May was with me all day for one full year. Instead, they might kind of be a floater and be wherever the school needs them to help, which is also great because they get experience in different grades with different students, different teaching strategies and personalities. So they're still getting a lot out of the program. It just looks different because May has taken on a lot of the same exact responsibilities that I have as having my own classroom, whereas a student apprentice, they might come in and not have as much responsibilities to carry on throughout the day, but versus just giving support where needed.
And they get a broader experience.
Yeah.
Well, help me understand this. You're earning credits at Western,
Yes.
so you're going in as you're a student. You decide you want to try this pathway. So there are certain programs, certain subjects you take, or you choose your subjects, and then you take advanced studies in those to earn college credits, correct?
That's right. It's very mapped out, just like going to college. They tell you exactly what courses you have to take every year to meet the degree requirements.
Of course, I was reading the articles in the paper, which did a really good job. But we're talking about you can earn 61 hours toward degrees.
That's right.
And then, what more do you need then to graduate? You take other courses from Western?
An additional, however many,
Right.
60-some credits that
Right.
you had to take after.
Right.
So, basically it's, you're getting 2 years and then 2 years. That's the way the program would work if you started in high school.
Right. Then after you've completed that program, you don't have to go through another apprenticeship, so to speak. You are qualified
Like
to,
student teaching, like she does not have to go through like a
That's what I meant.
through a student teaching semester, whereas a traditional.
Because you've already done
student
your
might.
student teaching.
Yes.
That's great. So what you say it's difficult to go ahead and to go from the pathway to the apprenticeship. So what are some of the things that has to happen for you to be able to do that?
You mean in terms of the application process? Can
yes.
you talk about your application process you went through, May?
Well, so I came in as an adult apprentice, so obviously I had to give up my transcripts from my previous college experience and an interview process with the district and the school that I was going to be in. Really just a complete vetting of you, and just like you would for any big scholarship for college, you go through the same process.
What about the you came in as an adult apprentice, but what about the student apprentice? What do they have?
Similar. They have to go through an interview process with Western Kentucky and our district. So we have some skin in the game here. By the time May finishes her program, we will have spent about $60,000 to $70,000 preparing her to complete that program. So the district has spent about $60,000 to $70,000. Obviously, for us, it's a great investment if we get a great first-year teacher, right?
Right.
And someone that's committed to the profession long term. But it does. It's not free. So, and which I think is long overdue. As you know, expecting someone to go to a four-year university, let's say they incur $100,000 in debt, and they wander off to this, place to be taught by strangers that they'll never interface with again. But, that's a pretty weak model to sustain the profession locally and communities. So this model, while it does require additional revenue and funding for local schools, it's a much smarter model. That allows us to have people connected to places in our community with a purpose. In this case, teaching.
If we have teaching professionals in Nelson County, wouldn't it, make sense to use those professionals to teach more teachers? It's, kind of just simple math there, which is, I guess, strange to me that, here over the past few years, we've been engaged in these conversations, and it's like, why didn't we talk about it sooner, really, I suppose. And this isn't just a thing that we see with the teaching pathway either, right? Of course, with this one, it's a unique case where ideally you're, I guess, creating more professionals to then give back more to this process. But again, there are, as we've seen, with huge investments made into the Up Center and things like that.
Yeah, the apprenticeship model grew out of a larger process around how do we invest our students in local people, places, and continue to allow them to form purpose as they graduate. So we have 143 community partners that are connected to students and working throughout the course of a day or a week. Those partners have gotten every year more and more invested in the success of our students. In this case, we're leveraging our own resources to do that, which is a win-win. So, but you're right, it's not really any different in theory to what we're already trying to do. We have students that are enrolling in heavy equipment apprenticeship programs. We have students that are enrolled in welding programs. We have students that are enrolled in electrical apprenticeship programs. Like, all those things are similar to this. In this case, though, we're doing it also to support our schools.
Right. And one last question about funding. I know you're funding it from local funds now, but I think you had mentioned of that there's a possibility of some federal funds.
Jimmy Higdon, our senator, has been a big advocate for this program, and he is continuing to fight in Frankfurt for the whole state to leverage some additional funding to support districts in leading this work. Not only do we pay to support the apprentice, we also pay additional teachers and support structures to manage the whole program. So while it's a common sense investment for us locally, not all districts necessarily have some of that flexibility. But we are working with Jimmy to support awareness, and I think May probably will likely be speaking before the House or Senate about the work she did over the last 2 years, along with Miss Taylor and Miss Newberry. Sorry. It's a joke. Sometimes we call it Montgomery.
Speaking to the House, you have plenty of practice after speaking to elementary students, so I think you'll be just fine.
Yes, they can be brutal.
Yeah. If you can face down a classroom of fifth graders, you can do anything.
This year was first grade, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, first graders too.
Yes.
I'm just saying, by the time they reach the fifth grade, they think they know more than you do, and they're happy to tell you.
Well, I suppose before we wrap up here, I've got one last question for you. So what level of foresight may it have took, years ago to think like, in however many years I'm going to have this role in this apprenticeship program, let's say for a moment here that you can look 10 years in the future. Do you imagine yourself engaging in this process in a similar way of, say, mentoring, a student or rather, I guess, student apprentice or adult apprentice in this process?
That would be such a joy to me. I feel so grateful to have went through this program, and I feel so prepared. So the only way that I feel like I could give back is to be a mentor and to allow others to have the same opportunity that I have. So that would be amazing. I would love to do that.
Right. Well, any final notes here, or I think
Listen, it's great meeting you all and hearing your stories, and I think it's a wonderful program, and I wish you all kinds of luck with it, and hope this continues.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Margie.
Of course. Well, thank you all for coming in. Bradford and Brooks here this morning. Of course, Jim Brooks unable to join us here today. He's in Warren County, and hopefully we'll have some news about what's going on down there coming up at noon. In the meantime, stay tuned right here to your hometown radio station, WBRT.